We're going into weather now, and we are looking at some changes coming this week, and pretty welcome changes. We're looking for temperatures right now around 80 degrees or so. Our dew point and humidity have actually risen a bit from earlier today, but you may have noticed it wasn't quite as muggy. Our dew point temperatures came down a little bit today because of a front that moved south of our coast, and now it's kind of hovering near us once again. Tomorrow looks like another hot day. Our highs today were well into the 90s, but it will not be quite as muggy. And then we get a little bit of a more pronounced drop in humidity and temperatures. It looks like at the middle of the week, maybe late Tuesday and Wednesday, and we have no tropical threats. So nice to be able to say that heading into this week at the end of August. Tropical storm Fernand is out there, but it is not going to affect land, it looks like, as it'll just kind of fizzle over the northern Atlantic. Afternoon highs today did make it to 93s and 94s. Now we're sitting in the 70s or 80s for some spots. And checking in on that measure of humidity we often talk about when we get fronts and drops in humidity and things like that. Our dew point temperatures, they're mostly in the lower 70s. That's very typical for summertime, but when they drop into the 60s, you can usually notice it. For example, earlier today in a lot of spots, we did have dew point temperatures just slightly lower than the 70s into the 60s. When you get to 50s, that's your nice fall cold front, and then drier than that is usually what we see in the winter. Sometimes those fall and early winter cold fronts can bring those dew point temperatures down to 40s and 50s. We do have that front again that kind of bounced back. We do have another front, though, that will get a push in the upper atmosphere through our area late Tuesday, it looks like, and into Wednesday. So as we look at our precision cast, here it comes. It's just starting to arrive tomorrow and then slowly moves across our area. Note the rain chance very slim. In fact, through the entire week, our rain chance stays slim. Maybe a coastal shower or storm tomorrow afternoon. Now we'll move ahead to Tuesday, and here comes the front building farther south of our coast, and that'll be driven from some high pressure building in and kind of pressing that slightly drier air farther south toward us. So that's why we're thinking we'll be able to feel it a little bit more clearly as we get toward late Tuesday, Wednesday, and then with that high hovering there, it may last through Thursday, Friday, maybe even into next weekend. So a nice treat for us tomorrow. Our temperatures in the 70s to start, maybe not quite as humid as some of our August mornings, and then highs tomorrow still around 94 or 95. You can see our planner for tomorrow. Lots of sun. Some clouds here and there. Our high temperature still right there in the lower and middle 90s, but a break in the humidity at least a little bit. Our dew point forecast, by the way, again, look at those 60s. This is tomorrow afternoon, even 70s, not bad. This is by Tuesday, again, 60s to 70, and look just north Hattiesburg, feeling much drier with a dew point in the 50s. And then by Wednesday, still looking at 60s. So it's not a huge difference, but I do think it'll be a nice thing to look forward to for a lot of us. Here is Tropical Storm Fernand way out to the east of, this is Bermuda. It's far to the east of Bermuda. So taking on a slightly more kind of organized look tonight, but the National Hurricane Center really doesn't have much more strengthening as it moves eventually into these northern waters, and will get more wind shear and shouldn't affect land. So another storm that may not affect any land areas. This now not very impressive looking tropical wave as of tonight has a low chance of development as it moves over the Windward Islands and then into the Caribbean Sea. But it will have dry air and also wind shear to fight once it gets there. So when we look at our tropical models, we're actually looking at some of them just kind of fizzling it somewhere over here, keeping it very weak, just kind of tracking some messy moisture maybe into the other side of the Caribbean Sea later in the week, but not a high chance of actually developing, and it doesn't look like a threat for us at all. This season so far, we've had 6 named storms. The average at this point in the season is 5. The ACE energy, accumulated cyclone energy, is 36, so above the 22 average at this point in the year. Almost all of that came from Erin. And remember, the ACE takes into account how strong a storm gets, how long it lasts, and how those two factors. So Erin was so long-lived and also so strong. That's why it almost all came from Erin. 7-day forecast shows temperatures around 90 for highs and pleasant mornings and evenings heading into the middle and end of this week.